This film takes us back to the era of World War II, telling the story of an American fisherman named Walter Eck. Walter is portrayed as a heavy drinker whose life is rather chaotic. He is far from the disciplined type of a soldier. One day, he arrives at a dock, only to be unexpectedly called by his old friend, an Australian naval officer named Frank Houghton. Frank's visit is not just a casual reunion. He has an important mission, asking Walter to serve as an observer on Matva Island, monitoring Japanese ships and the aircraft frequently passing through. Naturally, Walter refuses outright. He insists he is not a soldier and has no obligation to take on such a dangerous task. But when Frank threatens to seize his beloved boat, Walter reluctantly agrees. Knowing his friend's bad habit of drinking, Frank instructs his crew to hide all of Walter's liquor in various spots around the island, far from the cabin. If the alcohol were left in the cabin, Walter would surely consume it all at once. Before leaving, Frank explains their code system. He will be called Big Bad Wolf, and Walter's code name is Mother Goose. Secretly, Frank even sabotages Walter's boat to prevent him from fleeing. Walter, realizing his boat has a leak, grumbles in frustration. Forced to stay, he settles into the cabin that has been prepared for him, complete with food supplies, a radio, and a rifle for protection. Soon, Frank contacts him via radio, asking Walter to be patient. Walter is only a temporary placeholder until a more suitable replacement is found. Walter is furious, feeling played, but Frank already has a clever plan. Any accurate report about Japanese activity will earn Walter a bottle of liquor. Because there are many scouts on neighboring islands, Walter's report must match theirs to be credible. With this system in place, Walter, who was initially reluctant, becomes more diligent in observing the skies and sea. When he finally spots a formation of Japanese bombers, he immediately reports it. His report is accurate, and as promised, he receives a bottle of liquor. Walter, naturally thrilled by this work incentive, becomes more engaged in his duties. A few days later, Frank informs Walter that he has found a replacement, a man named Perry. Walter is asked to pick him up on Bundy Island. Walter agrees on the condition that Frank provides the locations of all the hidden liquor. After collecting all the bottles, Walter sails toward Bundy. However, upon arrival, things are not as expected. Walter discovers a newly dug grave, and Perry is nowhere to be found in the cabin. Instead, he encounters a woman introducing herself as Catherine, a nun. Catherine explains that Perry was killed by Japanese soldiers. Walter is confused, especially when a Japanese patrol boat passes by the island, forcing their conversation to stop. Feeling the island is unsafe, Walter invites Catherine to come with him to Matva Island. A major surprise awaits. Catherine is not alone. She is accompanied by 7 young girls. Walter is shocked but has no choice. He ferries Catherine and the children in his small, overloaded dinghy. During the journey, Catherine explains her situation. She and the 7 girls were traveling from Rabaul to Australia, but their ship left them stranded on Bundy Island. Perry, who was supposed to help them, was killed, leaving them to survive on their own. Now, Walter is their only hope. Eventually, they reach Matva Island. Walter immediately confronts Frank over the radio, angry and suspecting a trap. Catherine clarifies that Frank is unaware of her and the children's presence. The 7 girls are revealed to be daughters of diplomats, some from England, France, and Australia. Their parents entrusted them to Catherine to ensure their safety. Catherine requests Frank to arrange their pickup, but he explains that due to frequent Japanese patrols, he cannot safely retrieve him for another 4 weeks. Walter and Catherine are disappointed but have no choice but to accept the situation. Life on the island settles into a unique routine. Catherine insists that Walter refrain from drinking in front of the children. Walter ignores her initially, but slowly begins bonding with the girls. He manages to coax Jenny, a timid girl who has been silent since being separated from her parents, into speaking again. As a reward, Walter names his dinghy Jenny. Although he writes it backward in his drunken state, this small gesture softens Catherine's heart, and she begins to see Walter in a new light. Days on the island are filled with both warmth and danger. At one point, Japanese soldiers land, forcing everyone to hide. Fortunately, the soldiers are only searching for food and eventually leave. On another occasion, Catherine nearly suffers a snake bite. Walter panics, treating her wound and giving her some liquor to calm her nerves. Through these moments, Walter learns about Catherine's past. She was once a performer before becoming a nun, a revelation that draws them closer. As time passes, Catherine realizes her feelings for Walter. She eventually confesses that she wants to leave the convent and marry him. Walter, secretly in love with her as well, is overjoyed. They plan to marry immediately, even using paper rings in place of real ones due to the circumstances. Their happiness is soon threatened. Japanese aircraft spot a red cloth on a coconut tree, signaling the presence of inhabitants. An attack ensues. Walter bravely protects Catherine and the children, burning their cabin to erase evidence and diverting the Japanese with his repaired boat. Catherine fears Walter has been killed, only to find he survived by jumping into the sea before his boat was destroyed. Finally, an American submarine arrives at night to extract them. Everyone survives and returns safely to Australia. Walter and Catherine, now married, settle down and eventually have 12 children. The story concludes on a warm and satisfying note, blending wartime tension, light humor, unexpected romance, and touchy moments of survival. This 1954 classic showcases the unlikely bonds formed between a drunken fisherman, a young nun, and 7 innocent children stranded on a remote island during wartime.